Hello, welcome to Reading the Bible in 1 year. We are starting week number two. Uh, we have put together a plan to read the Bible in 52 weeks. And I am so glad that you are determined to stick to it and to stay with me as we go through the Bible together. And so we started reading from Genesis 1 all the way through 14 last week. And you have to read quite a bit. And I know that was kind of like a lot of material. And with that, the timeline consisted of thousands of years. And sometimes we don't realize that the from Genesis 1 through 12, many hundreds of years happened, and I would dare to say even millennial, and so we have to keep that in mind. And so the events covers, like I said, thousands of years. So it's important to keep up with the daily reading, and there's a breakdown. If you want to read on a daily basis, I'm gonna leave kind of like a breakdown of the chapters that you could be reading each day, if that will make it easy, or you can just do it at your own pace. The way we're doing this is we're just reading the assigned chapters, and you can do it in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, however you want to do it. We just That's why we are. This plan consists of a weekly reading as opposed to daily reading, and you can choose how you want to do this. Uh, and so I thank the Lord for your commitment to get to know the Lord, your God. This is important because the more you get to know God, you will love Him more intimately. And you'll realize that just as God used those people from the past, God can use you as well. So, after moving quickly through creation in early human history, Genesis now slows the pace and focuses into one family, Abraham's family. And Abram, whom God changed his name to Abraham, and you will learn more about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's part of um the reading that we're going to be doing from Genesis 15 through 35 35. And this chapter will lay the foundation for the Jewish identity and much of the rest of the Bible. And you will see that the Genesis went from one couple and children, but then the population grew, but it got so bad that God had to wipe it out and start over. And but then the God did not want it to lose no one, not one person, and so He chose Abram, and Abram was invited to work with God and to bring the reconciliation that everybody needs, that reconciliation that everybody can come back to a right relationship with God. And so Abram was invited, and God made a covenant with Abram, and his faith was tested. And you're going to read that about in Genesis in chapter 15 through 23. God establishes a covenant with Abram in Genesis 15, promising him promising him children, even though he and his wife were past childbearing age. And it's very interesting that God can do whatever He wants to do. And so in chapter 17, Abram's name is changed to Abraham, which means the father of nations, or father in plural. And so, like Ibrahim, actually some of the Jewish or Arabic name of Abraham is Ibrahim, and you probably have heard that name before, but it's the same Abraham, which means fathers, as in plural. And so his name after, not after, but his name actually means father of nations. And Sarah, his wife, becomes Sarah, and circumcision is introduced in chapter 17 as well as a sign of the covenant. So Abraham's story is marked by a deep, deep faith, also a series of mistakes and failures that Abraham did. And I'm going to tell you three stories that you can find in this reading from 15 through 23. And that is number one, the story of Hagar and Ishmael. Abraham and Sarah attempted to help God fulfill his promise, resulting in pain and division. And we still have paying the consequences even today. And so you will also read about Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a very difficult account of human corruption, and is bad. And you will also see divine justice, but you will also see mercy being developed. So you're gonna have to read all of these chapters so you get to know who is this God that is asking me to love him, to dedicate my life to him. And then you're gonna read the story of the near sacrifice of Isaac. A troubling but yet powerful story that reveals trust, obedience, and God's provision. God always provides. And the thing is that in these three stories, God never bothers to explain the many why questions that we may have. You may have lots of why questions, and for some reason, God does not take the time to explain it to us. So we have to trust him, learn to trust him. And as we do that, we see how Abram had to do that and trust the Lord. And what was the outcome of all of that trust out of that obedience was also a blessing not just to himself, but a blessing to all nations, including us, because now we are children of Abraham, of the same faith that Abraham had back then. Because what Bible does he have? Did he have? To be able to see, oh, this is how you get to know God. It was nothing like that. It was God directly talking to him. So I just want you to read about that and allow the story to tell you. Try not to bring your preconceived ideas to those stories, because some of those stories are so familiar that you might think, I already know where this is going. Try to allow to speak for itself, and you'll see what it will do for you, because God's inviting you to see that he is the central actor. He's faithful, he's purposeful, and patient despite of human weakness. Now, that's the life of Abraham. Now we come to Isaac. And the story of Isaac can be found in chapters 24 through 26. The story of Isaac is not, it's basically serves as a transitional figure between Abraham and Jacob. And his story is mainly is told mainly in relation to others. For example, his marriage to Rebecca, the death of Abraham, conflict in his between his sons, and his repetition of his father's mistakes. Did you know that Isaac made the same mistake that Abraham made? I'll let you find it. Look for it, and please type in the comment box what are some of the mistakes that Isaac made. They were the same mistakes that Abraham, his father, committed. Though often overlooked, Isaac's life reminds us that God works through people who may never be in the spotlight. Isaac was sort of like a quick story, and it quickly moves to Jacob's story. And for generation, God is known as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so, even though what we know about Isaac's life is so minimal, Isaac's life story matters to you, matters to me, matters to the entire history, redemptive history of God. Even when his role was so small, it didn't matter. So when you think that your role in this world is small, that you really, I'm not really sure if you're making a difference, you have to remember God brought you into this world. Your life matters. Your life matters. And you may not see at this side of eternity the huge impact that you actually make. And so don't waste your life. Don't waste your life because your life matters. Now, let's move quickly to Jacob. Jacob, from the deceiver to Israel, his story can be found in chapters 27 through 35. Jacob, whose name means heel grabber or cheater, basically a cheater, lives up lives up to his reputation, to his name through deception and broken relationships. He repeatedly causes harm, yet God continues to pursue him. That's interesting. How God, even though he keeps making some, same mistakes of being a cheater, God continues to pursue him. And that really brings hope to us because we can see that God, as the main actor, as the main character in all these stories, paints a picture of how God works in our lives. So in chapter 32, Jacob wrestles with God and receives a new name. Do you want to guess what that name is? Yeah, Israel. Do you know what that means? I want you to look for the meaning of Israel in the story. Don't just Google it. I want you to read it. It's in chapter 32. I'm giving you that hint. But don't just jump to it and read that to find what that means. But I really want you to read the whole thing, and you will discover what Israel means. It will tell you there. So this moment marks a turning point in his life. The fact that God changes his name, that changed the course of the life of Jacob, and he becomes Israel. And Israel gets his new identity. Not only he himself, Jacob, becomes Israel, but also the children are known by that name, and the land is known by that name. Israel becomes people and land. That's very important, because God is saying something to us about people and land. So keep that in mind. And this is defining the future of Israel as a nation. So just the key themes to watch for. God is the hero of the stories, not the flawed human characters that you read. Because sometimes they will disappoint you and you will be like, man, this is just terrible. Hang in there. God is the hero, not those imperfect people. It you will also notice that obedience brings life. Obedience brings life. And in every time people rely on themselves, it just brings chaos. Self-reliance brings chaos. And you have to keep that in mind. And you see that in those stories. Also, God's plans are bigger than any cultural expectations, ancient or modern expectations. You would notice that. Um, and again, some things will really make you uncomfortable, but don't let that detain you or deter you from continuing to read. Rather, get yourself into it. Allow the Spirit of God speak to you through those stories. And you will notice another thing. Transformation often comes through struggles, not through comfort. You will notice that. So don't be afraid when you go through struggles. God is doing something greater than your own struggle. He's doing something beautiful. So something to think about, questions of reflections questions. What do these chapters reveal about God's faithfulness? Another question. Where do you see the cost of trying to help God out? What do you think is the cost of doing? And then third question, which character or struggle do you relate the most? Do you relate to most this week as you have read the scriptures? Now, looking ahead, next week's reading will be Genesis 36 through 50. And we will be centering, our focus would be on Joseph, whose stories continues God's work through unexpected faithfulness amid hardship. So hang in there. Thank you for persevering and being faithful in this in the reading of scriptures. So this week we will continue to read from chapter 15 through 35. So the Lord bless you, and I will be seeing you next week. Amen. Amen. And I know that you will have a great benefit for you and your families.